Two men, one devastating secret, and a barn that's about to become the setting for one of the most violent confrontations Emmerdale has produced in months. When Mackenzie Boyd finally learns the truth about who really fathered Charity's baby, the anger he's been desperately trying to bury explodes, and by the time the dust settles, one man's life is hanging by a thread. Emmerdale is gearing up for an explosive summer showdown between Mackenzie Boyd and Ross Barton, and new spoiler details confirm the fallout from a devastating paternity secret is about to boil over into genuine, life-threatening violence. As tensions between the two men reach a breaking point, a heated argument spirals into a full-blown fight inside a barn at Butler's, leaving one of them fighting for his life. This is exactly the kind of high-stakes summer storyline Emmerdale has built its reputation on, and show boss Laura Shaw has already confirmed there's an even bigger bombshell coming for the village on top of it. To understand why this confrontation carries so much emotional weight, you need to understand the tangled paternity storyline that's been quietly building between Mackenzie, Charity, and Ross for months. When Charity became convinced her baby might not actually be fathered by Mac, suspicion initially fell in a different direction entirely, before the situation grew increasingly complicated. Ross continued believing the baby could be his, despite Charity's insistence that she hadn't tampered with any test results, and he eventually pieced together the truth after Mac admitted that Charity suspected the baby wasn't biologically connected to their family the way everyone assumed. After confirming through DNA testing that he was, in fact, the baby's biological father, Ross made the difficult decision to tell Mac the truth rather than staying silent. But in a moment of devastating dramatic irony, Ross found Mac already staring at the DNA results himself, having ordered his own test to determine paternity. That result proved Mac wasn't the biological father after all, a discovery so painful for his friend that Ross couldn't bring himself to make things worse by revealing his own role in the situation. Instead, Ross agreed to step back and let Sarah and Jacob continue raising the baby as their own, choosing loyalty to his friend over asserting his biological connection to the child. That decision, however selfless it may have seemed at the time, hasn't erased the underlying tension simmering beneath the surface. Mac has continued struggling with the emotional fallout of everything that's happened, complicated further by his inability to see a clear path back to Charity given everything that's transpired between them. And crucially, he can no longer be around Ross without being confronted by the painful reality that his friend is the biological father of a child he'd believed, even briefly, was his own. Mac has been trying to keep his anger hidden, suppressing the resentment building inside him rather than confronting it directly, a strategy that soap opera storytelling rarely allows to hold for very long. According to confirmed spoiler details for the coming weeks, that suppressed anger finally reaches its breaking point. Things come to a head between Mackenzie and Ross, and what begins as a heated argument quickly escalates into a full-blown physical fight inside a barn at Butler's farm. Given everything that's built up between these two men, the emotional betrayal, the shattered trust, and Mac's carefully hidden resentment finally boiling over, this isn't framed as a minor scuffle that gets broken up before anyone gets hurt. According to the spoiler details, the confrontation leaves someone's life hanging in the balance, signaling genuinely serious, potentially life-threatening consequences once the violence finally erupts. While the full specifics of exactly how the fight unfolds and who ultimately comes out worse for wear haven't been completely detailed, the framing makes clear this is a pivotal, dangerous moment for both characters, one that's been building for weeks through layers of suppressed anger, betrayal, and unresolved grief over a friendship and family situation that's grown increasingly untenable. Given Ross's history of taking the high road throughout this entire paternity saga, choosing to protect Mac's feelings rather than assert his own claims, there's a real sense of tragic irony if he ends up the one paying the physical price for a situation he tried so hard to handle with restraint and compassion. This storyline also arrives amid a broader wave of major developments hitting Emmerdale this summer. Showrunner Laura Shaw has confirmed that the village is bracing for what she's described as a massive, bombshell moment on top of everything already unfolding, telling Inside Soap it's going to drop a big, massive bombshell on the village. While details of that separate development remain closely guarded, its timing alongside the Mac and Ross confrontation suggests Emmerdale is stacking multiple high-stakes storylines together for what's shaping up to be a genuinely explosive summer of programming. Fans have been closely following the tension building between Mackenzie and Ross for weeks, with much of the online conversation centered on genuine sympathy for both characters given how complicated and emotionally fraught their situation has become. Entertainment outlets covering Emmerdale spoilers have highlighted the barn fight as one of the standout moments to watch for in the coming weeks, specifically pointing to the phrase, "life hanging in the balance," as evidence that the show intends for real, lasting consequences rather than a quickly resolved dispute. Social media speculation has already begun swirling around exactly who comes out worse from the confrontation, with many viewers expressing particular concern for Ross, given his consistently selfless handling of the paternity situation throughout the storyline so far. There's also considerable curiosity about how this fight might intersect with other major summer storylines already in motion, particularly the ongoing mystery surrounding Dr. Todd's murder, given that a flash-forward has already revealed her death without clarifying who's ultimately responsible. This storyline works because it allows months of slow-building tension, rooted in a genuinely complicated, emotionally messy paternity situation, to finally reach an explosive, consequential breaking point. Rather than having Mac and Ross's friendship simply fade into quiet estrangement, the show is choosing to let that unresolved resentment detonate into genuine physical danger, raising the stakes considerably for both characters heading into the back half of the summer. For Mackenzie specifically, this confrontation represents a critical turning point in his character arc, testing whether his suppressed anger over the situation with Charity and the baby ultimately consumes him entirely, or whether this explosive moment becomes a catalyst for some kind of eventual reckoning and growth. For Ross, given his track record of protecting Mac even at his own emotional expense throughout this entire storyline, the physical toll of this confrontation adds a layer of genuine tragedy to a character who's consistently tried to do right by the people around him despite his own complicated history. Looking ahead, the immediate question hanging over this storyline is simple: who survives the barn confrontation, and what lasting damage does it leave behind for the wider Dingle and Barton families? Given how thoroughly entangled Mac, Ross, Charity, and the baby's situation has become, the fallout from this fight is unlikely to stay contained to just the two men directly involved, likely rippling outward into Charity's relationships with both of them as the truth about what happened in that barn eventually comes to light. There's also the broader question of how this storyline intersects with Laura Shaw's teased massive bombshell for the village, and whether these two major summer storylines are more connected than they currently appear. Combined with the ongoing mystery around Dr. Todd's death and Serena Sugden's still unresolved secret, Emmerdale is clearly building toward a summer packed with intersecting, high-stakes drama across multiple storylines simultaneously. Months of buried resentment between Mackenzie Boyd and Ross Barton are about to explode into genuine, life-threatening violence, driven by a paternity secret that's tested both loyalty and friendship to their absolute limits. With someone's life confirmed to be hanging in the balance once the dust settles, this barn showdown looks set to become one of Emmerdale's defining moments of the summer. So what do you think? Does Ross survive this brutal confrontation? And is Mac's anger justified given everything that's happened? Let us know your predictions in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more Emmerdale spoilers and entertainment news updates.